my friend Tyler sent these pictures over of a 2003 Mustang Terminator Cobra that was being sold as a shell. And this car was not wrecked. It was just completely parted out. And when I say completely, I mean it's totally parted out. There's nothing left. Like, all the good Cobra parts are gone off it, from the interior to the trunk lid, the bumpers, the drivetrain, absolutely, the independent rear suspension, all that stuff. And so it's a car that is being sold for about $1,500 as a shell. Now, that's not unreasonable. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who would pay tens of thousands of dollars for old Boss 302s or Boss 429s, Mach 1s, Shelbys that were in worse shape than this, that were just shells, because people want to restore these cars. And this one definitely has nothing left on it, but it's actually a pretty clean car, which is actually kind of sad, because if it wasn't wrecked, then why part it out and sell it like this? I mean, maybe they had a blown engine or something, but selling all the parts off of it is a way that some people can really make a lot of money off of the car and then sell the shell and still come out ahead. So it's really too bad that they kind of double dip from people, and the people buying the car are people who are enthusiasts who have always dreamed of having a car like this, and they really want the car to put back together. And as nicely as I can say it, it's really too bad that some people are not enthusiasts enough to enjoy these cars to the point where they take advantage of other people who want to put them back together and put them on the road. And I fully understand that when you part out a car like this and you sell it to somebody who wants to put it back together, that's their choice and nobody's forcing them to do it. But they've always wanted one of these cars, and so this is one of the few ways they can get one, because the prices of them have gone up so much that some people will never be able to afford one of these in great shape, So this is a nice looking car, though, has the VIN number on there. And if you look closely, there is a Y in the VIN number, and that shows this was a supercharged Cobra for 2003. And so that is what makes this car so special. And like my friend and I had talked about, if this car is selling as a shell like this, it only shows the pedigree of such a car. Can you think of any other Mustang from 94 to 04 that can be stripped down to a shell and still desirable and sold for somebody who wants to put it back together? Maybe, a Bullet or a Mach 1 or something like that. But this car is definitely proof that these cars are the next Boss 429s, the vintage Mustang series of cars that will be worth something later in the future, when people are already selling them as shells and people are already buying them to put back on the road. And I know people, have friends who have bought cars that have been parted out like this and put them back together, and it costs them a lot of money. Even I've put a car back together that was completely wrecked and parted out, a GT, 2002 zinc yellow Mustang GT, and I realized that it costs a lot of money. It nickel and dimes you when you have to buy every little bracket or hose or part. And so this type of project, I believe, is best for somebody who has one that's been rolled over or wrecked really, really bad, and they have every part they need. They just need to transfer it over to a nice, clean car like this one. And I have to say, when you see someone part out a car like this, it does make you upset, but I have to thank that person for at least saving the shell and giving it as an opportunity to be purchased instead of taking it to the crusher like some people do. Hopefully somebody will get this car and put it back together, because if you look in the past, anyone who's restored classic muscle cars, a lot of times when you see them in barns and stuff, you're just grateful that that person had the sense to at least put it away. Even though it wasn't taken care of very well, at least it was put away, and then you're very grateful, and the people who restore the cars are very grateful that the car is at least still in existence. So we have to give the credit there. At least somebody has preserved the car, and they didn't hack it up really bad. This one looks really clean, so they could sell it as a shell, and hopefully somebody will put it back together. As a matter of fact, this car will not be sold for any other reason. Nobody will buy this car for any other reason than to put it back together or resell it later in the future to somebody who will put it back together. but there's nothing left on this car at all. I mean, the doors maybe you could part out, but everything's been parted out on it. But this is a good platform to start out with. It's a very straight car from what it looks like. The body's all there. It's like having a car that's been restored and had new floors and everything put in it. Now it's just time for reassembly. That's the way I look at it sometimes. Now, I don't know if this paint is really nice. In pictures, it could look great and then be all scratched up. It would have to be something you'd have to look at up close in person or take the seller's word for it. But, you know, say it doesn't need a paint job. It could be a really nice car to just start reassembling. You know, if you had a wrecked one, like I said, that just needed to have everything transferred over to this car, that could help. But looking over it looks really good, especially in the wheel wells there. Those strut tower areas are proving to be places on SN95 and Fox body cars and even these New Edge cars to be a spot for rust concentration, and those look really good. And this engine bay might have been repainted. It actually looks kind of a flat red color instead of a clear coat like a Terminator would be. So maybe there's been something done to it. The interior, obviously there's nothing left of it, but the inside of the car looks clean. Everything looks really nice in there, and hopefully it hasn't been hacked up like window switches and stuff that was left there. Hopefully they're not all cut up. Transmission tunnel looks really nice, and you know, inside the car looks really good. This is a really clean looking car from what I can tell. Doesn't look like it has any rust. It looks like a very good canvas to start at. Those are the gas tank straps there, and underneath you can see it might have a little bit of surface rust on the top left, hard to tell, but it's really hard to tell in the pictures. But the rest of the car doesn't show any signs of rust, so I bet that's probably not it. Fuel lines might have been cut, but this is the certificate it comes with. It says, you know, the VIN number and everything. It shows the build number, the build date, and all that. So that's showing it is a real Cobra. Everything should match up. But everything looks good on the backside. You know, no rust there either. I think that's the main concern. But, you know, this car could have been a nice car, and then just they decided to part it out. It says it's a clear title and everything. Maybe the transmission or the engine went, and so they parted out the rest of the car because they didn't have the money to fix it, or you never know. There's always a story there, and some stories are surprising more than others. But, you know, I notice a lot of times with cars like this, people spend a lot of money building them up, and they don't have any money left over. So if they break them, then they don't have money to repair them, and they'll have to just get rid of the car by parting it out because they don't have any other option. And I'm not saying that's the case in this instance. You know, I don't want someone thinking I'm calling them poor, but a lot of times people who don't have money are the ones who part these things out because they can't fix them. And their only option they see, instead of selling it for a discount, is to sell the parts off of it. And in this case, it looks like everything was stripped off of this car. So if you buy this car or nobody who does, put it in the comments. It'd be nice to know what happened to this car and to see if someone's going to bring it back. And this car could be put back together really easily and nobody would even know anything happened to it. And anyway, just kind of a cool story, kind of cool to see. Like we were talking about, this is just like the old muscle cars that have become so valuable that now people will even buy rusted out shells of them and spend $50,000 on metal or just to get the car straight. So anyway, cool thing to see. And thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more Mustang content.